welcome. My name is Shuchi, and I am one of the co-hosts for tonight. Thank you for choosing to spend your evening with us. Very excited to see a full house. I am with ServiceNow Ventures. We mostly invest in enterprise tech. Happy to have a conversation later. And I'm very excited to be joined by a great group of panelists. Just out of curiosity, how many of us are in the Web3 space? I'm assuming majority. All right, investors. All right, entrepreneurs. Okay, cool. Well, welcome. So without further ado, I know we have about 40 minutes. And Chris, welcome. My name is Shuchi, and I am one of the co-hosts for tonight. Thank you for choosing to spend your evening with us. Very excited to see a full house. I am with ServiceNow Ventures. We mostly invest in enterprise tech. Happy to have a conversation later. And I'm very excited to be joined by a great group of panelists. Just out of curiosity, how many of us are in the Web3 space? I'm assuming majority. All right, investors. All right, entrepreneurs. Okay, cool. Well, welcome. So without further ado, I know we have about 40 minutes, and Chris, you have a hard stop soon?
I do. I have a tournament baseball game for my 14-year-old down in the peninsula, so I need to run out at 6:40. But I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. With that, let's start with a quick round of intros. Yep. So tell us a little bit about your background, what excites you about Web3 in the space, and perhaps what got you started in it.
Yes. Hello, guys. My name is Yaroslav Ivanov. I'm CEO in Alta. We are a blockchain laboratory, and we have the blockchain acceleration. So we signed 2015, help to VC funds and investors to invest in this market. And we provide due intelligence, legal opinion, and everything. So, and also we supercharging the project, and we got to climb it for CoinMarketCap on top 50 on CoinMarketCap, and we provide the approved liquidity score. So we help to investors to find the good opportunity in this market.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Chris Kelly. The headline here for me is that I co-own the Sacramento Kings of the NBA. Have been deeply involved in NBA Top Shot and Dapper Labs and the way that things worked out there. By way of sort of other credibility in the space, I angeled Alchemy, which is one of the major infrastructure providers now, based here in San Francisco, kind of helped them pivot to crypto and Web3 in the way that they approach the infrastructure, building an AWS for blockchain, and to try to get 1 billion people on blockchain over time. And with this background, I'm now actually running my own fund that's focused on blockchain and its various instantiations, on the thesis that blockchain is going to replace every database that you can imagine in the world. Blockchain approaches are going to replace all of those. I've seen this from a number of different angles, from the NFTs of NBA Top Shot to the infrastructure plays at Alchemy, to some other attempts at Snickerdoodle and Hug. Very active in the space, a deep believer in it, and excited to be here.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Chris. I am Christian Hasker. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Hedera. Hedera is a public blockchain. A couple of things that make it unique in our industry. One is it's built on an alternative technology called Hashgraph that is very fast, very low latency, very secure. And then we also have a different governance model. So we're governed by very large organizations that are dotted around the world. And I've been with Hedera since the beginning of the project in late 2017. And I was like 21 back then, and now I'm 50.
Yeah, and just to add, ServiceNow partners with Hedera. We're a part of the council, so we're very excited. And I am a big believer in the power of blockchain and what it can do, especially in the enterprise space. So, right.
Awesome. Yeah, here's this. Hey everyone, my name is Paige. I'm investment manager from OKX Ventures. OKX Ventures is the corporate venture arm for OKX, so we are a leading exchange like Coinbase. We are, well, by volume per se, we're second biggest because we do a lot of perps. And before OKX, I was working at McKinsey, San Francisco, so doing a lot of big tech, fintech, and also sustainability stuff. Moving to crypto was last year. I was joking because I moved in crypto after 3 hours before FTX. So it was not it was not the best time, but also not the worst time. But joining crypto, did a few investment. Actually, Chris and I we share two portfolio, well, one portfolio and one in still in process.
Indeed.
Hug is a great portfolio. We can talk more about Hug later. So at OKX Ventures, we don't have external financial LPs. It's mainly fully off balance sheet. So we do investment from the business synergy perspective. We also create this ecosystem that has the synergy with the centralized exchange side, also the Web3 side of things. Super happy to be here. Thanks for inviting. I'm happy to be the representation of female on this panel. Thank you.
Manmeet Singh. I've been an operator and an entrepreneur like almost of you guys here. I ran the company for 11 years and recently, about last year, got into the fund business. When I got into this business, the market was crazy. People were raising money on white paper at 70 to 80 million. I was ready to write a check. They said now it's 100 million. Kind of backed off from the whole process and thought, need to rethink the fund again. We raised this 40 million, and then in January, when the things stabilized, we started investing. Now I've done about 10 investments, and a lot of them in blockchain, solving the real problems. I generally don't look at B2C as a problem. I think businesses will benefit a lot more from this blockchain as well as this AI. That's where we are focusing on. We are solving health tech, med tech, logistics, financial, and those kind of problems. And that's where I'm investing and actively investing right now.
Great. So talking about investing, what do you think how are you all partnering with startups, and what are the options available for all the entrepreneurs in the audience? Whether it's traditional VC funding or perhaps, Christian, in your case, grants. So maybe
You want to start with the grants, Christian?
Sure.
Yeah.
Who remembers 2021?
Yeah.
Show of hands. Those were good times, right? So if you cast your mind back like 18 months ago, money was flowing like honey. And as you said, you could raise any amount of money on an idea. And pretty much every layer one protocol has a foundation. A foundation has a bunch of treasury that's held in that layer one's cryptocurrency. And the foundations really exist to bootstrap their ecosystems. So back in 2021, which wasn't long ago, you could come with an idea, and if your idea was, oh, I can bring 100,000 users to your blockchain network, the money flowed to you. Those days are gone. You missed the boat. If you didn't get the money then, it's not coming now. But the money hasn't dried up. It really now is going to solve real problems for organizations. So I actually am very excited about a bear market because that's where stuff gets built. And if you have a good idea, and especially if you have already gained a little bit of demonstrable traction and you've attracted some seed capital, then that is a good time to go to a foundation and be able to ask them for additional funds. The beautiful thing about a foundation model is they are not equity-based or token-based. So you don't have to give up anything, but they are generally metrics-based. So it's not that you get a bunch of tokens up front and then you're left to your own devices. It's more that you get a small amount of tokens, you hit a milestone, that unlocks more tokens, you hit a milestone. And if you're able to demonstrate this ongoing accelerated progress, then the funds are still there from foundations.
And then I'm running a more traditional VC fund in this area, and everything has changed. The other major change that has happened, other than just the flow of funds right now, but the regulatory environment has changed quite a bit. A little bit more by background on me, I was the first general counsel at Facebook, joined the company in a bear market in 2005 as things were kind of sorting themselves out in a very early stage, and have continued to work in both the political realm and in the regulatory realm. So as Coinbase faces its problems, as you know, we had other problems with FTX and others, that's changed the overall outlook quite a bit. And I think that there are paths forward for quite a number of different plays in the space, and for those who pay attention to some of the regulatory requirements that I think an overzealous SEC right now is pursuing, and who figure out a way to work around a number of them as the law is overstated. So that's one of the other major factors that's changed things in the space. And that as I look at the path forward, I'm looking for ventures that are figuring out compliance on the early side. I'm looking at a lot of infrastructure plays. You know, Alchemy, for example, does not have its own token, does not have a foundation, and has, you know, has been focused on sort of operating and figuring out how to support everybody else and the way that they operate in the ecosystem. And I'm looking at a number of different other businesses with that. One of the ways that we do see traction for the use of services like Alchemy and others, and as a variety of very practical blockchain businesses move forward.
Just building off that, so ecosystem grants is probably the first kind of free money you can get because it doesn't really dilute your equity. There are also two other things that you can consider before you actually enter like this pre-seed or seed stage. For example, hackathon grants. So hackathon, for example, we hosted a hackathon in Silicon Valley with Google, and then the first prize winner is actually here. And then,
all right.
So it's not a lot, but it's like 10K or 20K. You know, you can get your bootstrap for like a few months. And then the other option is, I think Web3 is getting closer and closer to Web2. We have incubation programs from, say, esteemed CCS, Techstars. They also have something YC. Well, it's pretty Web2, but sometimes they have some allocation for Web3 startups. And then the super DeFi ones, like DeFi Alliance. You know, all the projects that went through DeFi Alliance are like great DeFi projects out there. And then as Series A investors, we actually look for this, I would say, almost like a approval from this incubation program to prove that, hey, firstly, you are technically sound, you know, you have great team, you actually make sense, your proof of concept. And then I think after you getting all this like free money and grants, and then you start to like reach out to create like angel investors out there. And after that, you can reach out to people like ACNZ or, you know, exchange set of, you know, investors, because they also look for different stuff like business synergy, how much value you can bring to the platform, and so on and so forth. So I think there are like different layers of things you can incorporate into a fundraising process. Even though it's in a bear market, it doesn't mean you have to raise like 1 million overnight. You know, there are a lot of steps you can take in between the process.
I've seen some European countries are giving a lot of grants, Portugal and Spain and all that. We are investing in a company where there is like they're giving them a 3.4 euro grant, 3.4 million euro grant if we invest 1.2 million in them. So there are many companies like that. So I don't know if you want to open up R&D in Portugal or Spain and other places, you may get grant if you create 10 jobs there.
And also the U.S. regulatory environment is making it, unfortunately, quite attractive to offshore a number of these, you know, sort of token-based businesses and others, right?
Yourself, how are you partnering with?
Yes, maybe last 2 years we have a lot of work to get grants. It's probably in Polygon, in New Protocol, and Sellout. But I think it's very important to choose the blockchain where you want to grow, because it's like countries, it's a lot of business. You must understand all benefits or opportunities. And this is very, very important to choose this blockchain and choose this country. You know, it's very difficult, but you must to understand this market and take your time, not be fast here. You know.
Great. I think all of you alluded to the fact that there is a bit of a slowdown in the market from a Web3 standpoint. Where are you seeing promise? Like, and hope and the future? And what are you looking to invest in?
I mean, I think that there are a lot of structural moves right now to speed up the various ecosystems that work out there and make them more friendly for payment systems, whether it's Bitcoin Lightning or Ethereum, virtual machines operating through companies like Polygon that are very active in the space and trying to have ways to roll things up on chain with zero knowledge proofs and other approaches to the way that different chains work. I think that there's been some activity on L1s that are working very hard to make sure that they're offering suites of DeFi solutions. And I think that there will continue to be a lot of activity there, although that's where the regulatory focus will be, and that's where there's the greatest degree of risk for companies that are trying to do things differently. And as we've seen recently in the banking crisis in the US, there's a whole bunch of reasons that finance should be done differently. And I hope that will both spur a lot of thought and innovation, but it'll have to be done in the US at least with a lot of eyes to regulatory compliance.
Anything in particular, like as people navigate both enterprises and entrepreneurs and perhaps investors also, things to look out for?
Well, I mean, you've seen the SEC kind of go back on Kraken and Coinbase in particular on staking products and the way that they've presented them and describing them, even though they had reviewed Coinbase's S1, had approved it for public trading of the stock, and then trying to say, well, they're offering unregistered securities on the platform through staking mechanisms and others. So, there are ways to, craft these things with more explicit compliance. I do think that there's increasing pressure on the SEC here to actually try to figure out a way that compliance can be had. Everything should be approached in lending and in operations in that way with extreme caution in the U.S. right now, which is one reason why sites like Coinbase, which have been comfortable being in the U.S., are looking at Singaporean and Bahamian registrations.
So some trends we see on Hedera, we're based in the US, and yes, there are regulatory headwinds blowing for sure. But we've come off of two hype cycles. One was DeFi and one was NFTs. And what remains from that is now you see large enterprises looking at both of those. So there are a bunch of banks that are part of the governing council on Hedera, and they're looking at how they can leverage DeFi, specifically stablecoins among banks for real-time settlement. And then as far as NFTs, you have brands that are looking at how can they engage their consumers in new ways, how can they leverage digital collectibles to foster loyalty among their consumer base. That's very exciting. I think that's quite near term. A little bit further out, we see a lot around sustainability, the ability of enterprises to mint carbon emissions tokens and then offset those carbon emissions by leveraging carbon offsets, all on the same protocol. And that all starts with a data problem. So everyone is generating different data, and there are different ways of looking at that data. If that is stored in a central database where it cannot be independently verified, the trust model just isn't there. So by writing emissions data in a standardized way to public blockchains, it then allows for a lot of economic incentives to be unlocked and innovation to be unlocked. And that's going to take more time. That's probably 5 years out to really mature.
And just to add to that, I think that's where we're seeing the most traction within our customers as well, because we just launched our ESG management product, and we're trying to see how we can integrate the layer of blockchain into it.
Right. Those are really great points. I think just two keywords. Firstly, I think it's consolidation. I mean, right now, if you say your startup is like a seedless wallet, my first reaction is, how is it different from thousands of seedless wallets out there? Is it MPC? Is it AA? I think right now we are already past the stage of proof of concept, and then just like random new ideas, random new L1s. You have to tell me that, hey, how is it solving the current gaps we're seeing in existing players? It's already so saturated that random startup ideas doesn't make sense anymore. And then I think the second word is just moving off the cryptocurrency realm. If we're really talking about the blockchain technology, as Christian mentioned, tokenize of real world assets, right? For example, the carbon credits or green bonds make so much sense because so our company, OKX, we're super big in Asia, and then, for example, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, they work with Goldman Sachs on their DIP platform, digital asset platform. They just issued like 8 million tokenized green bonds in March. So that's like the world first tokenized green bonds out there. And then we're seeing a lot of like similar attempts by the traditional finance players with the Web3 players like us, and then we're trying to work together to say, if we move away from the speculation side of cryptocurrency, what we can do with blockchain technology as a whole to make more good things happen in the world, right? It's not just like pumping and dumping, but actually making the decentralized technology and the distributed ledger technology good for data storage or good for incentives, and then involve more people.
No, all this is good. Like in the last panel, somebody mentioned the Gartner hype cycle. This Web3 crypto is growing through that turf of its illusion right now. Either it has gone on its own because there were so many exchanges, so many wallets, so many same things which were happening, and every new entrepreneur was me too, which is what probably I did not like, and probably most of the people here did not like. Then this AI thing came up, and now there is a big hype cycle on AI. I'm seeing like everyone is changing their model. Oh, I am a marriage of a Web3 and a AI. They were doing Web3 and now they are saying, so we need a standard AI company. We need a standard Web3 company. Web3 will raise its head again. Come Q1, Q2 next year, you will see crypto. Decentralized is not going to go away, but it's going to come next year. This consolidation will happen. A lot of exchanges will marry. A lot of wallets will go away. Some or 2 or 3 will succeed, maybe 5. But then AI combination will be there, but not everybody is everything. So that's one thing. And enterprises are more looking at AI. They are looking AI as a solution, and they are looking blockchain as a database. And infrastructure is there. Immutable database, which is great, which keeps identity, keeps the high KYC, keeps your privacy, keeps your security. All that is being looked upon. But AI and Web3 combination will happen, but it will take another year or so.
Yeah, the core appeal of blockchain at the end of the day is a distributed trust model, and the certainty that it provides that what you get as a digital asset is something that exists and is sort of trusted by others, and the chain that's approached. From the first time that I saw the Bitcoin white paper, it was like the underlying technology is more important than the currency. And I think that we've had a huge shift to understanding that after there was a hype bubble about a number of different currencies. I think that's really helpful. And then the NFT cycle was very real, and but sorting it back from random not to pick on anybody in particular, random digital apes or CryptoPunks, from the way that things started at Dapper. The shift from CryptoPunks to NBA Top Shot and the NFL product that they have, is a significant one, and one that will work out over time, but definitely sort of was caught up in the hype cycle for a while.
Great.
Yes, the AI now it's like NFT and Metaverse 2 years ago is like it's more about marketing and not about some mass adoption. So maybe for us, if you want to try create something AI now, it's great, but you must do very speed because it's great to maybe half year and it's finished. So maybe after 1 year we will see some good project on AI, but it's so difficult to and a lot of scams projects here, so we must be careful here, like investors and VC funds too, So it's very crazy market, so be careful. It's just what I want to say, and because AI, it's it's not just like Web3 to like blockchain to it's you must be careful here.
Absolutely. So you all work with a global portfolio of companies, right? You see what's happening in different parts of the world. Are there certain regions or areas that you consider hotbeds, if you will, from a Web3 standpoint? And are there things that we can learn in the US from how it's being embraced, adopted across the globe?
I mean, I think that there are amazing things going on in Singapore right now, for instance, and that it's been able to grab a lot of the gravity of the Asian community around Web3, and that I definitely pay very close attention to what's going on there and in other centers. I spent a little bit of time in Seoul recently, and in South Korea. There's some pretty interesting Web3 opportunities developing there, and a great Web2 technology infrastructure that is ready for the next thing, and to move on to Web3 and have a lot more distributed trust technologies operating as a core part of all the offerings that companies like Naver have over there. And also I do think that Europe is trying to get into the game in a big way by putting out positive regulatory guidance, and that's being paid attention to by quite a few companies.
I'll add Dubai to the mix. One of our governing council members, DLA Piper, it's a very large global law firm. They helped the Dubai government to write the legislation for the digital asset framework that's been adopted. So I think, from a Web3 perspective, where there's certainty around regulations, you see thriving ecosystems, and when there's uncertainty, it makes things a lot harder.
I think for different types of projects, we are looking at different regions, right? For example, if we're looking at the developer community, I think Hong Kong is actually like a really hot spot right now because of government support. They're putting $15 million just in supporting, like attracting startups from all around the world. And then they built this place called Cyberport. It's like a government-based incubation place. And then, the Hashkey Wanxiang Week, like 2 months ago, was such a success for the whole Asian community and also from overseas VCs. And then if we're thinking about payments, I would say LATAM is like a great market because there's an actual need there. But the problem right now is like a really inner circle market that if I want to get to know the market, I need to know the local VCs. I think that's the situation right now, how we are navigating the market there. But I mean, payment is huge there and can actually help people's lives. The other thing is, I think Chris mentioned Europe. I think MICA, M-I-C-A, I forgot what's the full name for the license. It's great, it's super encouraging from the government side. They're trying to instill this license, and then all the exchanges I know, like we're trying to apply for this license. And then if Europe is going to be super bullish on the crypto market, that's another pool of capital and talents that can, help the US side probably decide what's the direction in the future.
Certain countries in Europe, Dubai, Singapore, as I mentioned, they are at the top. But there are a lot of countries which have been sitting on the cornerstone where the currency is unstable. I was in Singapore and I was in Hong Kong looking at that. They were paying developers in Vietnam and Cambodia in crypto. Those crypto companies were using a lot of crypto. So that's probably the reason I think the crypto really took a strong hold outside America, because dollar has been kind of stable. We'll say de-dollarization is happening in a bigger way, but this whole currency, other countries which have inflation, which is high, they all wanted to invest in something different. So the crypto took off in all these places. But regulation is only being put on the positive side, either in the Dubai area or in the Europe area. So we have a couple companies which we are invested in Singapore and a couple in Europe, and we are seeing those companies getting very positive from the regulation, still getting the grants from the countries and getting positive. I think US has to change, otherwise crypto may completely go out of here. AI really takes off in a big way and everybody starts using it. Maybe that'll become a great thing for us, but jury is still out. We don't know which one will succeed and what will succeed.
Yourself?
Yes, I think it's the most popular region now. It's Asia. I think it's because we have a lot of some requests from Malaysia, from Japan, from South Korea, from governments. For example, now we provide the service to NFTization to all museum, all national museum in Japan. So it's I think it's first regions like, for example, Thailand provides for all exchange from, for example, Bitgate, I don't remember, provides regulation for exchange. So from Minister of Finance. But now in America we see, it's little confused some regulation here. And for example, like Conway is moving from America and a lot of other companies too. So it's very difficult to work, and the regulation is must do helpful project, not destroy.
Absolutely. Well, I know we have 4 minutes with you, so maybe I'll open it up for any questions. I don't want to deprive the audience. If you can, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Isabella, and thank you all for the sharing. It's very insightful. I love the metaphor of boats. And so my question is that not only the startups are switching like branding their story from Web3 to AI, even some VCs are betraying us.
We are equally guilty, right?
Okay, I'm not going to name which VC it is, but it's a very big VC, and recently there's some complaints from its own portfolio community as well. I wanted to know like how you think of this. Is this normal, expected, abnormal, or any thoughts?
I mean, I think that the appeal of blockchain technology is broad, but I don't think that I see them as additive at the end of the day and not sort of exclusive. And so the fact that some messaging has changed on the part of one big VC, I don't think should necessarily be held against them. And I don't think that it should be taken as a symbol of any sort of lack of faith in blockchain-based businesses over time. In my sort of limited, quieter marketing materials, I've always been very positive about AI and about the way that quantum computing, for example, is going to affect a lot of things having to do with blockchains, given that they're based on cryptography, not being crackable, and the fact that you're going to need to think about with thousands times of computing power when you can actually factor some of the math that the blockchains are based on. You got to be ready for that world and have security businesses around it. Talking about all those things shouldn't be a knock against somebody in the investment business.
Chris is absolutely right. Like, how many VCs talk about I'm investing in Web2 now? That was the biggest thing just 4 years back. Like, everybody was investing in next SaaS thing. Now SaaS is probably not even talked about in the VC.
Right.
Because we all look at something which is 7 years away, 10 years away, the next shining light. Some problems have been solved, so they move on to the next one. How many people will invest in a new exchange now? Right? Would you invest in an exchange? I would not. But
if there was some sort of regulatory approach that they had
or some new AI way of figuring out or something, maybe we will. But otherwise, there are hundreds of exchanges now.
So what I hear you guys telling me as investors is to go build in greenfield opportunities, go to other countries, don't be the champion in cities or countries like the US. Because I also think like Coinbase or people that I go against or are the first ones to be regulated, they could be big winners here. Is that a question?
So I'm not saying go outside or move outside at all. And just to reiterate, we are here and we're committed to the US and we're committed to working with regulators. But if you're here, you're taking a harder path, which may actually lead to a better outcome. So it's not that taking the easy path makes everything easier. It doesn't necessarily do that. And certainly if you can thread the needle on US regulations and come out the other side, you have a good chance of being a really big winner.
Yeah, I think figuring out what the way that the U.S. regulatory market is going to work and positively affecting it by showing utility in blockchain businesses is one of the ways to affect things here. If there's something that's going to be more at the edge, I would definitely counsel against launching it here right now until we get some more clarity and some ease of a path to register if it's going to be required with the SEC or the CFTC in particular. Or to have a meaningful set of exemptions around digital assets.
Yeah, and just putting myself in your shoes, I will actually not be scared away by the whole US regulation thing because I honestly think that's really affecting the exchanges, not the protocols per se. It's really the how it's tested, right? Whether you are like a security token, that's really affecting the operation of business. So I would rather diversify my partners, diversify my investors to include overseas exchanges or overseas VCs. And especially if you're a project, you don't have to launch tokens. You can be like a pure equity project, and that doesn't really affect you. And if you're token projects, you can issue a token on like overseas exchanges who do not face the US regulation, and there are like so many exchanges out there. So, and honestly, Silicon Valley is still the hub for crypto. And Denver, Austin, we have the best builders in the world here in the US. I don't think we are saying go outside of the US. We're just saying diversify your partners and then trying to make it work for your own case.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to run, but don't let me break up this party. Thanks so much. Thank you so much. Hey,
Ryan.
Ryan, good to meet you.
Good to meet you. I'm building a computer vision partner tech.
Here, sorry.
Thank you so much for this session. It was really exciting, especially he was also saying that Web3 is not just crypto, it's actually blockchain as well. So my question for the team here, what is exciting you like right now? What part of the sector within Web3 are you guys really honing down on and investing in? So that's something which I was really curious about.
So currently we will be investing in real solutions, the problems which are being really solved for an enterprise. There's a lot of money has gone into the consumer side, a lot of money has gone into all these crypto side where NFTs and all creators and all that. But I think now even the enterprises are coming down and asking us, like compliance, security, privacy, KYC in a different way for an enterprise. So all these people from an enterprise angle are asking, and they don't have the same solution. So maybe APIs would be great, or something where they are solving a blockchain problem where they are off-ramping on, because banks also want to jump into it. So they want to be part of the game of crypto. So they're saying, okay, keep us in off-ramp and on-ramp. When the money travels or transfers, I want to be part of it. Don't just keep it in an exchange, put it in a bank. So they want liquidity too, because people are taking out money. So now the enterprises are jumping into it. So that's where I think we are looking. If the solution is coming or a problem is being solved in that area, that's where we'll be investing.
Sorry. We talked a lot about AI and that being a hype cycle right now. I'm actually excited about the convergence of AI and blockchain technology. Who here trusts AI today? Okay, if you trust AI, to drive you, fly you, tell you the right thing in ChatGPT. Okay, we've got some people. And maybe other people don't trust it. If you find areas where there's mistrust, you have a blockchain application. How are these language models, large language models, what is the data behind them? Are they biased? What is the way that you can monetize AI outputs? What's the intellectual property of you giving a prompt to an AI and then putting it out there? These are all data problems that can be solved by blockchain, and we're just in the very, very early stages of that.
Yeah, we just made an investment, I think last week, it will probably be announced tomorrow or day after, you will see it. But it is basically figuring out if this whole audio, video, or the text was generated by ChatGPT, or it was a real thing. In next year, when the political campaigns are happening, that'll be your biggest problem. Is this video from the president or new people who are running for the president, is it real or is it fake? So there are companies who are trying to solve that problem, figure it out, and give it to enterprise. Law enforcement needs that. Everybody needs it. So those are really, really important problems which ChatGPT is going to create problems. Probably blockchain will solve it because this is immutable, confirmed, and guaranteed over there.
Yes, it's downtrend, it's your friend. So now you can find who now leave, who now shows the traction. So, but our clients lot of now invest in game and in pharmacy, enterprise. Yes.
Yeah, pharmacy is a big use case. Like this is another use case which I can talk about is like when a medicine, like COVID medicine, if you can take it, the vials, it has to be maintained in a certain temperature, but they are shipped all over the place. How many times were you able to keep a temperature lower or higher, or it went out and the medicine is useless? So those things are maintained by sensors and recorded in blockchain, so it's an immutable database, and it keeps going and traveling. So we invested in those shipping and logistics companies also. So there are many use cases on that side which are coming up.
So personally, I'm taking a really consulting approach to this question, right? Firstly, I look at 10. If you look at a 10, the ZK space actually has a really little 10. And then it has so much great players inside. So does that mean that I will be bearish about ZK? I'm not, but I will probably be more strict about the new ZK project that coming out from this space. And then the other factor I will look at is what's the market share of the top player, right? Taking Oracle, for example. Chainlink right now has probably like 80% of market share. So I think this is a space that I see a lot of opportunities because it can get a vampire attack from any smaller protocols out there. Right now we're seeing jump speed to taking market share from Chainlink. So I think if I'm a startup founder, I would try to analyze the bigger picture first, trying to see, hey, what's the gap and what's the chances I can take to enter this market and getting share from the existing players, and what's the chances of me taking the 10 from the top players with how much market share. Yeah, and then I guess the other direction is every investor in the space who's more DGM will be like, I'm an infra investor. And that's true because all the picks and shovels, that's the fundamental of the space. If you are bullish about crypto, we need to make all the scalability work, all the security, all the security and safety, privacy, like these things still have a long way to go. And the user experience of using all the protocols are not great. Like my mom still can use a wallet. So these are the things that we are still bullish on and trying to see if the project can focus on both UI, UX and also solves the infra problem of the space.
All right, well, as much as I'd love to continue the conversation, this brings us to the end. Thank you all for being here, and
Thank you.
To our audience, thank you.